What are we doing for an intro this week, boys?
We never plan those.
We just do them.
We're just that naturally funny.
3, 2, 1, intro.
All right, guys. Be funny on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Airplane food.
Should we go?
Welcome to Two Chunks and a Hunk, our movie podcast where we give pumps and dumps. I'm Jordan Wonders, and this week, I'm your chunk.
I'm Doge, and I am your chunklet chunk cookie.
And I am David Blease, and I am your humblest of hunks at your service.
Well, no sense in wasting any time because there's just so much meat to really talk about here. Let's go ahead and jump right in. This week, we're talking about Green Lantern.
And this podcast is only an hour long, so from here on, we're going to be calling this movie Grantern.
Grantern.
So we're talking about
Grantern starring Reynolds and Blithely. Reynolds and Blithely in this Grantern movie. So to talk a little more about Grantern, I'm going to toss it over to Doge for a synopsis.
Okay. The movie opens with a voiceover detailing the history of the Lantern Corps. From there, we meet Hal Jordan, ace fighter pilot who's a bit of a jerk.
And a bad boy.
You can tell because he wears a James Dean style leather jacket. Hal is chosen by the ring worn by a dying alien. Hal is chosen to be protector of the sector of the galaxy containing Earth. Throughout the course of this movie, Hal learns that fear is not the opposite of will, but he needs to be courageous. And then when he is courageous, he will have the power to use his green ring to save the world. We also get a villain, and I don't remember his Hector Hammond.
Hector.
He does the autopsy on the purple alien, gets some yellow goo on him, and turns into like maybe the grossest looking movie character that I have ever seen in my 2.5 decades of life.
Yeah.
It was hard to watch.
Yeah, it was very gross.
And he would just smile at you.
Yeah.
The grossest thing for me was that there is still facial hair.
Yeah, it was a gross
so
little
sick.
mustache.
You know what it looked like to me? The first scene where he rolled on the swivelly chair, he looked like Ben Stiller at the end of Dodgeball. Where he was like, freaking Chuck Norris.
Yeah,
so that's Grantern for you.
Grantern.
That's Grantern.
So let's fly through this movie. Green Lantern flying joke to start it off.
You get it?
So we start with the intro to the Green Lantern Corps and the history of how they started, and then I'm going to go ahead and dump right off the bat, which is this entire movie and including the opening scene. They kind of just spoon feed you. Here's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Here, like they just tell you the bad guy.
Yeah.
As if like in this huge billion-year history of the Green Lantern Corps, they're like, we're going to zone in on one bad guy.
One guy. Yeah.
But he's the most baddest guy.
And wink, wink, you might see him later.
I also would love to talk about how terrible Parallax looked when he was frozen in ice.
Yeah.
He looked awful.
I think Parallax in general looked awful.
I agree for the most part. His teeth scared me enough to where I didn't like seeing him on screen. But in the frozen in the ice, when the Green Lanterns find him at the beginning of the movie,
those aren't Green Lanterns.
Yeah, those are just random spacefaring aliens.
Those are PlayStation 2 level CGI aliens that just fall into some ice, where then Parallax says, "You're afraid. Good."
and I'm going to go ahead and blow your mind right now. Parallax? Mm-hmm. Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob.
Are you
really
dead serious?
What?
Are you dead
Serious.
serious?
Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob
Super
is Parallax. And that's mine. But all I'm saying is in the ice, in a movie full of really bad looking CGI in a lot of places, he in the ice is, I think, the worst looking CGI of the movie.
I don't know. That's a tall order in this movie.
It really is so bad in the ice.
And let's talk about, because the CGI is just terrible everywhere. Let's even talk about the logic that they they lock him up in the ice with Green Lantern type glass, keeping his arms or tentacles frozen.
Yeah.
And 3 people or aliens fall into a hole. He consumes them because of their fear. And with 3 people's fear, he's able to escape. Like, that's all that was holding him?
Well, he was
Seems
just
like you
real
should've-
hungry. He ate the whole thing.
Well, and okay.
Was that enough for him to break free? Like, did they do such a terrible job of keeping him back that they were like, if anybody comes in and is afraid, we start all over?
Here's my answer to that question. Apparently.
Okay. I'm going to skip like way forward, almost as far forward as I can skip and still be in this movie. Hal defeats Parallax
Whoa, spoilers!
by
Sorry.
by tricking him into going into the sun, right?
Yes.
So we're supposed to believe that Hal just thought of that right there, and Abin Sur, who's like the Granternest Grantern of all time, didn't consider that.
Well, technically, Hal didn't think of that just then. It was Kilowog when he created this, or Sinestro when he created the sun.
I think it was Kilowog.
Was it Kilowog?
Yeah.
When he created the sun on Oa,
Yeah.
was like the
Yeah.
bigger they are, the harder gravity pulls on
Yeah,
them.
that
And
was
so
the-
in that moment, he was like, oh,
Remembering.
we have a big old sun.
But here's the thing. How does Parallax, who's been in the galaxy for eternity, because they're
Yeah.
immortals, how does he not know, like, ooh, yeah, right, I'm not going near that sun, boy. Like, you kidding
Yeah.
me?
He's a hungry space
Hippo.
devil snail.
Well, and they treat him like he's the T-Rex in Jurassic Park. Like, he's going to
Yeah.
be like, right? Where it's like, he's an immortal that was on the council, the Jedi
Yeah.
Council of tall people.
Yeah.
And he's not going to realize that, oh, he's clearly trying to trap me
Yeah.
or get me to chase him.
I think, that makes sense. I don't know.
So let's go back to the beginning. We're introduced to Parallax. He breaks free, which shows us that that's what this movie's going to be about. And then we back down to Earth.
It was
And-
almost the Super Mario theme song, just by the way.
Beep. And then we see Hal Jordan. And Hal Jordan is late as usual.
Running late.
Yeah.
Typical Hal.
Typical bad boy. Throws on his leather jacket. He's late to this dog fight. Throws little, quirky, likable lines to get us just to get a little bit
You
endearing.
could, again, I don't want to reuse the same thing twice, but you could practically hear him going, bing, every time he said something.
Then that did not work for me in this movie. I spent this whole movie being like, Hal Jordan, you absolutely insufferable pompous jerk.
Well, I feel like they just said, "Hey Ryan, just go, just be funny, do your thing." Which is that?
that may actually be what they did. I'm gonna go ahead and give my super dump right now to this.
Oh no!
This movie was about halfway done shooting by the time that they even got a script together.
How does that happen?
Who knows? Like, that does not seem like.
I mean,
for
it makes
me,
sense watching
for
the
me.
movie, but
I mean,
I just
when
don't
we
understand.
record our podcast, we write out every single thing we're going to say
of course.
before we even
Like
push
this,
record. Yeah,
and this,
like this,
and
and this,
this,
and this,
and
and
this.
this, and this, and
this.
this.
Yep, right on.
Yeah,
Good,
it took
we're
up a
good.
lot of space on our script page, but no, for real. And I do want to give a special thank you to Colton Kingston. He wrote us in at 2chunksandahunk@gmail.com. That was also his dump, was that this movie had no script. And so they kind of were just, I guess, like, maybe like, hey, we'll wing it. We'll figure it out. And honestly, what may have happened is that there's kind of a notorious rumor around Hollywood that much of Iron Man 1 was filmed without a script. That Jon Favreau was just like, okay, here's the direction we're going. Robert Downey Jr., Jeff Bridges, make it happen. And the fact that that movie came together is not because it had no script, but in spite of the fact that it had no script.
Yeah.
And I almost wonder if DC was just like, so
That's
literal.
the magic sauce.
So
Like,
literal.
let's stir that in the bucket.
We have to make this our Iron Man.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that Iron Man did that, but maybe. I mean, RDJ is a freaking
He is
incredible actor.
the
and-
most charming person in the world.
I think it would make sense that both the movie and the suit were built in a cave with a box of scraps.
box of scraps.
And so let's go back. He's late to this dog fight, and they are going to be in a virtual, I guess virtual, but just a safe dog fight to test out these new AI fighter jets that are just as good as humans, except no mistakes. And Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds are the two best pilots, and so they are commissioned to fight these AIs and essentially lose.
Right.
But I mean, right off the bat, and I get you can say this in a lot of movies, but in no way are we ever thinking that this is going to be a failure. Like, we know he's going to come in and just rule the
and
day.
Hal basically is like, I don't lose things, I win them.
Yeah.
So I will win.
Well, and one of my dumps in this scene is, have they seen planes fly?
Yeah.
Because did you see what the planes were doing? They acted like fighter jets from Star Wars.
I know. It was like X-Wings.
They were going, no, and I'm like, have they seen planes?
Not
To
how it
be
works.
fair, though,
They can't-
I'm sure we're about to get a tweet or an email where somebody's like, obviously you're not familiar with the X-45 fighter jet. It can actually fly
The same
backwards.
person that angrily tweeted us about Stanley Trains the last podcast.
If you're
Which, by the way,
there you go again.
looked it up, not a thing.
Oh, no.
Stanley Trains does not exist.
If you are real into planes, trains, and or automobiles, this is probably not the podcast for
or
you.
at least not for fact checking.
No way. We know about movies, and that's it.
Honda.
That's a car.
Well, and one of the things for me, and I'll go ahead and say it now, actually might be my super dump for this movie. It is.
Really think about it.
My super dump for this movie is that there's absolutely no characterization. There's no character development. I feel like every character is given one scene that totally encompasses them as a character,
Yes.
and they just refer to that scene.
Yes.
They're like, remember how Hal is like this like irresponsible person because he was late?
He's late for
Yeah.
stuff. I see that.
Remember when he the whole movie he's like, why did the ring choose me? Because it's supposed to choose people that
Aren't
don't
late
have
for
fear. He's constantly saying they're supposed to be fearless, and that's not me. And they're like, Hal, it chose you because you can overcome fear. Remember the planes? And that's all. That's all we get.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there was an attempt at a deeper backstory with his dad and like implanting that fear in him from a young age. And I say attempt because it was an attempt. It wasn't successful, but there was an attempt, and I see what they were trying to do. It was just like they were like, is that good? That's good enough.
That's enough.
And they just made odes to it the whole time. They're like,
Yeah.
Hal, spitting image of his father. Hal,
Always late.
just resting on the influence of his father. Like they just kind of just made little elbow nods to us the whole movie.
I really
Gosh.
thought his nephew was going to come back into play at some point in the movie. He didn't.
Yeah.
Not even once.
Nope.
I don't know what I think it was just to show us like, hey, he's not all bad.
He's a bad boy, but he loves children.
Like, I just remember finishing the movie and being like, where's his family?
Yeah.
He should probably tell them.
Did they even explain who those people were in the kitchen? He goes in the kitchen and they're like,
That's his brothers.
both of his brothers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When did they say that?
They did.
Exactly.
They were just-
this
I
movie,
know that they're his brothers.
I don't know that.
so
I looked on the IMDb page.
the way that stories should work is in Act 1 you introduce things and you have to think of it as like this is a brick that your audience or your reader, your watcher has to put in his backpack and he's got to carry around. And so ideally what you want to do is put the bricks in the backpack in Act 1 and then in Act 3 go, this is this brick. This is what this brick is for. This is what this brick is for, and reward audience investment. This movie front loads our backpacks with 1,000 bricks and then pulls maybe 4 of them out at the end.
Yeah.
So we're left going, where's his nephew? Where's his family? What is happening in this movie?
Yeah, they don't tie a bow on anything.
Yeah.
Well, and let me go ahead and just get this out in the open. Despite all the flaws, and I see them, I do, and I also dislike them, and am prepared to heftily dump upon many. I really enjoyed this movie.
That is so unbelievable to
I
me.
really did, and a big part of it is because, well, gosh darn it, Ryan Reynolds is just so charming. I can't even help myself.
No.
I can't even help myself.
not even think that in this
Can't even
movie.
help myself.
He's charming. In this movie, I don't think he was that charming.
Disagree. Can't even help myself.
In this movie,
no.
like they tried so hard to make us sympathize with Ryan Reynolds. Like Blake Lively, the scene when they're on the balcony outside her office, she's like, "You've been given everything, and you threw it all away." Like the whole time I was watching this movie, I was like, "Exactly." Like what a ungrateful.
Doge just stands
butt.
up and just,
Blake Lively,
Starts
you're
clapping.
speaking my language.
But my favorite part of that scene before we move on is that she says what I was, and I assume all of us were thinking in that moment, which is, can you go ahead and take that mask off?
yeah.
The mask is terrible.
okay, yeah, the mask is terrible. That's my super pump. which shows you how much I didn't like this
The
movie.
Mask is
no.
gosh.
What? I'm like, the
Mask?
CGI was incredible. No, I like where she completely smashes years of comic book disguises. Where she's like, "You really think that I can't? I don't know it's Hal because of I can't see your cheekbones."
Yes,
pump on that.
was
I
very
loved that.
funny. I laughed.
See,
at that.
I like that they at least acknowledge that as like, okay, in real life that wouldn't really be a disguise.
Yeah.
And
She's like, we grew up together.
and it goes against the logic of this protects your identity because you're like, from who?
How?
People that don't already know you. There's no way that it protects your identity.
Yeah.
So I think that was a
That is so
a
funny.
funny scene.
But I will continually dump on the Mask because on a costume that is truly one of the worst costumes I've seen.
Yes.
The Mask is the poo cherry on top.
well, and here's the
I
thing.
think the
so
worst
bad.
thing is that high collar. Because the way that the high collar on his suit, they haven't tracked it well with his neck, so
Yeah.
his like neck moves underneath it and it just stays right
It
here.
should be a deep V-neck.
just like a vest, but open.
He should dress like Aladdin.
I'm not that mad at the suit. I mean, it's pretty bad. But to me, even if the suit was CGI and you gave him a cool mask,
Yeah.
I think I'd be fine with it. The mask is so bad. And here's my biggest pump for the mask. They had the opportunity to do something that no superhero movie did, I don't think, before them, which is have white eyes.
I know.
I know.
Every Batman movie, Robin movie, they all went for the realistic, it's your actual eyes underneath. And they said, we're going to do a CGI, which is going to give us white eyes,
Yes.
what every comic book has done.
If his eyes were like glowing
And
white,
they
that would've been
kept
so cool.
pupils.
Okay.
And they changed the color?
And
yeah,
it
why
looks
would his
so
eyes go
fake.
like bright
I
blue?
don't know.
And eyes are one of the hardest things to create on a computer.
DC and blue eyes, man.
Superman Returns, yeah.
It's so true. And so it looked so... It didn't even
already
look like
did.
his eyes were able to look at things.
I genuinely believe that this movie would have been received a lot better if the suit was a physical suit that Ryan Reynolds put on his body.
Yeah.
I really do think that would have eliminated, not all by any means, but a lot of the complaints of just like, it's a ridiculous looking. I think if he...
Because then we could have been like, there is virtually no story and no conflict, but at least the suit looks cool.
He looks dope.
which
Yeah.
is most DC movies.
Which, if
Yeah.
that suit that he had on was not CG, but was a fit, it would have looked. I think
There
it
were
would have
some
looked
times.
awesome.
There were some times when the suit really worked for me, and I think it was when he wasn't like actively using his
Yeah.
power, but when he was like, it was like wider shots, and you could see, okay, it's green and black, like Hal Jordan's suit in the
Yeah.
comics. But then it gets like, it looks like lettuce whenever
I
he's
also-
using his ring power.
I really want to talk about. I know we're jumping around, but the scene when he shows up to check on Carol, it's the scene she finds out that he's
Green Lantern.
When he flies up, her entire room turns green as though he's real close.
Yeah.
And then the green goes away as though he like flew by the window, and then he flies up from in front of the window.
Yeah.
The direction of the light, the brightness of the... Because his suit is not that bright at any other point.
know.
Everything about it makes no sense.
Yeah, let's back up.
Yeah, gosh, we have to get through the plot of this movie.
true. That's a good point.
He goes... So he goes up into space during the AI fight scene.
Yep.
Like Iron Man 1, where
Yep.
they lose the power and he's able to then fall, kill the AIs for the test
Yeah.
and come out victorious.
And everybody's mad.
Everybody's mad at him because he wasn't
Because he
supposed to
did
do
so
You're not
good.
supposed to do that.
Yeah.
And then he goes into his nephew's birthday party.
Yeah.
His who we found out today were brothers.
and sister-in-law.
And sister-in-law are mad at him because did you notice that every time the news is playing, it's always playing the story that we just came out of?
And it's always about Hal.
Always.
Well, and every TV's on the news.
And what news story would be able to have coverage to a top secret
Of secret planes.
aircraft dogfight?
Yeah.
Like, when have I seen that on the news?
Goodness gracious.
So there's top secret, terrible military equipment that could successfully win wars for America forever and shouldn't be shown to anybody. Failed today. We've got footage.
And I think
Story to live.
we've talked about it in other movies, but this one, even to an nth degree, is written for the audience, not
Yes.
for the actual
Yes.
characters.
Nothing happens unless a camera's pointed there.
Which is why that every time there's a TV on, it's like, breaking news, that
Remember
scene
what
you just
just
saw.
happened?
Well, and I think that even contributes to make Hal more unlikable because the impression that we get watching this movie is that the entire world is about Hal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hal is what's called in fiction a Mary Sue, which he exists only as audience wish fulfillment of like Hal. Oh, he's good at everything, and he doesn't really do anything wrong, and he's the best human in the world, and he saves the whole galaxy just because he believes in himself.
But he doesn't flaw. I mean, he's late.
Yeah, that's true. Never mind, he's not a Mary Sue. He's totally relatable.
And right before we get to him leaving the nephew's party, Abansur, is that
Yep.
his name? Yeah. That is the purple alien.
Jango Fett.
Jango Fett from Star Wars.
And Moana's dad from Moana.
Really?
It really is, yeah.
Interesting. And he dies. He's the one that enslaved Parallax.
Yeah.
And the one that realizes that he's been set free.
Yep.
And he says, I can't get him twice. He outruns him on the spaceship. Somehow he goes into hyperdrive.
Why? Okay.
Yeah.
Why does a Green Lantern have a spaceship?
I actually have the answer to that question through Google.
Wait, really?
Yeah, I do. It's because they don't want to use the energy in their ring just for flight travel.
Because they got to recharge it.
Because they're
Bring the
recharging it.
lantern.
No, see, Jordan, no. Clearly, you're not a Green Lantern.
It's like a car charger.
I will say I am not as familiar with Green Lantern in the comics. Do they have to recharge their lanterns? Like, everyone's gonna be like, gotta rejuice my lantern back on Oa?
I don't think so.
Or their lanterns just
Because
limitless?
it says that the lanterns receive their power from the planet of Oa's energy source.
So it's like wireless charging.
Yeah,
It's
essentially.
Bluetooth, yeah.
Okay. Green tooth.
So Abansor realizes it's Parallax, and then he delivers the line, which I was like, ugh, here we go again. He narrates what he's doing for us. He's like, I'm dying. I'm going to the planet Earth, and I'm starting the selection process for my...
I'm having trouble breathing in and out. I have a big hole in my left shoulder.
And I feel like
am
us at the
purple.
audience are like, thanks.
Thanks, Abbott, sir.
And so when Hal's leaving his party, he gets sucked up by a green sphere.
Naturally.
And
That
gets
is
taken...
the worst effect.
Yeah, that looks so... It's just basically Ryan Reynolds like...
Okay. I have an observation. This movie was 2011, right?
Yes.
That is the same year that the first Planet of the Apes came out. Not the first, but like the first recent one with James Franco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where Caesar looks like a real monkey.
But to be fair, Caesar never gets teleported in a glowing green orb across multiple miles.
But to be fair, Caesar did not exist at all in real life. And Ryan Reynolds does.
Are you saying Andy Serkis isn't real?
Yes. Andy Serkis is played by me in a mocap suit. Anytime you see Andy Serkis, I'm in the back bedroom of my house with ping pong balls on a gray morph suit.
Andy Serkis doesn't exist. Andy Serkis is CGI. Let's spread it. Let's spread the rumor.
Yeah.
Well,
tweet it.
Tweet it.
My biggest thing in this green sphere is this is alien technology.
Right.
And it has the power to pick him up wherever he is on Earth and take him to the spaceship. And then it just throws him in a puddle.
Yeah.
Just to be a jerk.
Also, from up pretty high.
But this alien technology takes him from wherever he is on Earth, picks him up, takes him to the spaceship, and then could have just as easily like placed him. But then they're like, nah.
They needed to teach him a lesson, though.
Throw him in the puddle.
Because who among us hasn't fallen in a puddle from a spaceship? We have to be able to relate to Hal Jordan.
It's true.
Well, and he was probably late to the meeting. Am I right, my guys?
So then we're introduced to that's Hal and Hal becoming the Green Lantern.
Well,
The Grantern.
He
the
gets
Grantern.
the ring.
He gets the ring. It says he says put it before the lantern, say the oath.
Taika Waititi comes to pick him up.
Yep.
And then Taika Waititi has nothing to do in this movie. Like, he has no point in being in this movie.
I mean, yeah, absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Well, and he's so incredible in real life.
Yes.
I feel like the only reason he took this movie is the same reason that we would take this movie, where if someone offered a Green Lantern Ryan Reynolds movie, do you want to be in it? We'd be like, yes.
Sure. Absolutely.
I think- I'm
and then they'd be
sure
like,
he's just a-
okay, great. We have no script. How comfortable are you with improvising? And we'd be like, ooh, I don't know.
For those of you who don't know, Taika Waititi is the director of Thor Ragnarok, and he's
Do in the
incredible.
Shadows.
But he was in this movie and just, I mean, I know it's the writing, but it was bad.
Yeah.
Or the lack of writing.
Where
Fair.
when he shows him the costume and he goes like, "Oh, you're a superhero." Don't they always get the girl?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
that
the
was
worst
bad.
thing in the world.
And actually, that's going to be a pretty big dump for me is the telegraphing in that moment of just like, I'm aware I'm in a superhero movie.
Yeah.
It's me, Taika Waititi,
Well,
and
and
I'm here to spell out the plot for the remainder of the movie for you.
Again, that makes Hal so unlikable because it's like, oh, your friends think you're so cool. Like,
Yeah.
I just hate Hal
I
Jordan
felt
in
like
this
that
movie.
was the opposite. I
Really?
felt like that was him being like, you can't be a superhero because superheroes always get the girl.
No way. I
think that's absolutely what the subtext of that scene was, though.
I thought it was a funny nod to like, you're a superhero, but wait, don't they always get the girl and you haven't? But,
So you can't be a superhero.
But to be fair, did we ever think he wasn't going to get the girl at the
well,
end?
yeah. I mean, you can't cast Ryan Reynolds, and I mean, I'm struggling watching the movie, not falling in love.
He's about to get the boy. He's gonna get the chunk.
Well, and
Ryan Reynolds, get at me. You can tweet at me at JordanWonders on Twitter.com. It's a website.
At http://www.twitter.com/http.
we talked about now I can't say his name.
Taika
Waititi, and we talked about his terrible line of "Don't they always get the girl,"
Yeah.
which transitions beautifully into talking about Blake Lively.
Lively.
So here's my thing.
Okay.
Call on me.
Hit us, David.
You can tell the writing is so bad in this movie because these two incredible actors who got married in real life because of their actual chemistry
In this movie.
Have no
had
chemistry.
no chemistry in this movie.
Yeah, that's true.
What?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I feel like
They danced in a bar.
if you're gonna bank something on this movie, bank it on the fact that what I went into it going, the chemistry has to be so freaking electric that they got married and now have a kid together.
Like the Amazing Spider-Man.
Yes.
Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone aren't even married,
Well,
but
they're actually broke up now.
yeah, right. But they were dating at the time.
This is 2013.
They were dating. Yeah, we're recording this. We've had these in the tank for a while. It's taken a long time to edit. So don't tell me who wins American Idol this year. But yeah, like they had so much chemistry and they were dating. And it translated well, and that's probably my favorite part of those movies, which otherwise I don't really care for.
I like them.
We'll get there.
We'll talk about it later. But this movie, it was like they had not met each other.
Yes. And
Well, maybe they hadn't up until that point.
and I was watching this with
true.
my wife, and Blake Lively, in 2 separate scenes, gave one of the cringiest, fakest
Yes.
laughs
Yes.
I've ever heard. And she goes, "This is before Blake Lively really became a great actress." And I looked, no. She had done some great things before this movie, and I don't know what happened, but he was like, "Can I ask you a question? Am I irresponsible?" And she was like, the laugh was like the fish from SpongeBob. The surfer from SpongeBob.
Hey, wait. Is there a SpongeBob Green Lantern crossover confirmed?
Sponge Lantern.
Sprantern.
Sprantern, starring Brian Sprennolds and Blake Lively.
Sprant Bob Lant Pants.
So is this dancing bar scene that is after he gets trained on Oa? Is that correct?
No, because
No, he has the ring, but he hasn't
accidentally
trained
uses
yet.
his
So
power
he
against
accidentally
those guys.
Okay, so he goes
Outside of that
He
bar.
goes outside the bar, and the people that got laid off because of his, irresponsible stunt.
Yeah.
He's so irresponsible.
Yeah. Winning.
And they come up, they start beating him up, and then
Which also he has like a foot on them.
Yeah.
but there's 3 guys.
Yeah.
And here's my confusion. He takes like a fistful of rocks. Is that what he does?
Yeah.
And then does he try and throw
I
them?
think he was going to throw the rock.
I was confused because I remember seeing that in the trailer and being like, "Oh, that was cool, like it's a giant fist." But then I saw the scene and I was like, "Was he trying to punch them?"
From like 15 feet away.
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
Or was
Yeah.
he trying
That's
to?
actually one of my dumps is that whole fight
Or was he
scene.
trying to throw a bunch of pebbles as if that would do anything either?
Yeah.
Except maybe like, "You jerk."
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I think he was hoping that they would be like, ow, and they'd be gone when they turned around.
And then he, at least severely maims them by throwing them into cars.
Yeah, he punches that guy through a brick wall and the wall collapses on top of him.
He's probably dead.
But yeah, that scene for me, that's a dump for you.
That's definitely a dump for me.
Dump for me. Yeah, that was awful.
Which one of my super pump, and I'll save it for when we get there. But my super pump actually has to do with the execution of the powers in this movie.
Yeah.
But not in that scene at all. I will definitely dump on like that first outside the bar fight
Yeah.
scene.
Now, I'm not sure how he gets to Planet Oa. I can't really remember.
it's that exact same green bubble.
Yeah, they like
does it-
call all the lanterns, and he just like
Got it. So he goes up to Oa, and the first scene he goes in Oa, he kind of just, oh no, it's the shirtless
The
scene.
examination,
because
yeah.
Thank God we have a shirtless scene in this movie to save the day.
Those
David.
pecs.
David, let's kick it into the peck cast right now.
We're gonna switch over into our side podcast called Pecs or It Didn't Happen. David, if you'll go ahead and take us through that.
He had a really great frame, but honestly, I felt like he didn't really work legs enough for me.
He was
for
a little
me.
chicken leggy.
You know,
he was.
That's just one thing for me. It was one of my many comments I have about the body, but we'll get there later.
All right, this has been Pecs or It Didn't Happen. Subscribe on iTunes.
Then he sees himself in the mirror, has that little scene where he looks all cool, and then probably the best voice actor in this movie comes in to save the day, which is the fish.
Mr. Krabs.
No, the fish guy.
That's Jeffrey Rush.
Yeah.
Who's that?
Barbosa.
Barbosa.
The guy from King's Speech.
Yeah.
He's good.
This cast is stacked.
The cast is very
Tim
stacked.
Robbins is in this movie.
Who's that?
He's isn't he Carol's dad? Mm-hmm. Or no,
think.
he's Hector's. Wait,
I get those two characters mixed up.
Yeah, same.
Which one is Carol's dad?
Carol's dad is not. The senator is Hector's dad. I'm sure that's who you're talking about.
then yeah, that's
Yeah.
Tim Robbins.
But he's on Oa, and the fish guy kind of becomes his mentor, and he's like really nice, and you kind of love him. You're like, man, this guy's so
This is
intellectual.
This is like
and-
45 minutes into the movie. At this point, I'm like, okay, finally our story can start.
Well, and I feel like that would be the time to say, hey, there's been this incredible threat of Parallax. Let me explain who Parallax is. That would make more sense than at the very beginning of the movie being like, welcome to the Green Lantern Corps. We've existed for 4 billion years. And then a Parallax once. And you're like, why are they talking about Parallax?
Yeah.
Clearly he's going to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
When they could have just said that at 45 minutes in and then explained, here's who he is.
We should be as confused as hell for the first half of this movie.
Yeah.
Like, it should be just a regular movie about a really cool fighter pilot who doesn't do anything wrong, who we all totally love, and the news is always about him, until one day a purple alien crash lands and calls to him.
Well, and I feel like another thing that this movie does, which we realize don't need to be done in movies, like, for example, Guardians of the Galaxy. That movie just started.
Yeah.
It didn't give us a 10-minute prologue talking about here's the galaxies that exist and here's what Earth is called. It's called Xandar. And it's like, let's just go through the movie. Let's get introduced to the characters, understand who they are, and then slowly introduce the world around them. It'd be like if Harry Potter started and it was like, the wizarding world has
Magic
existed
is
for
real.
4,000
Well,
years.
something that those movies do, and I think it's part of why people like them so much, is those movies treat their audience as though they are able and have the ability to fill in the blanks.
Well, and your
themselves.
audience wants to do that.
Yeah, no,
like, you go
completely.
into a movie wanting to invest in the story, and it felt like this movie the whole time was like, it's a comic book. We're sorry. Like, it's kind of weird. Sorry.
See, I actually feel the opposite.
Really?
I feel like it was never and that's actually one of the reasons that I found the movie so likable, is that I felt like it was very unapologetically comic booky, but almost cared too much about catching people up to understand. I don't feel like it ever once was
Apologize for being a comic book.
Yeah, I don't feel like it ever was like, oh, we know this is dorky, just deal with the dorky stuff for a minute. I feel like it leaned hardcore into the like, this is weird and you're just gonna deal with it.
They just wanted to treat us like we're stupid.
I feel like it was more just like, ooh, we don't know if you're ready for alien names, so let's just go ahead and spell the whole thing out. And that's where the problem comes from for me. But honestly, I actually really appreciated the fact that this movie, to me at least, felt like it was like, all right, 3, 2, 1, take off, and it's going to get weird. Like, this movie's going to be very strange.
Yeah. I don't know. I just disagree.
But anyway, he gets he gets taken to Oa. They explain how the ring works and how it's only as capped as your ability to create and think in your mind.
Yeah.
Yes. Is that a pump or is
That is actually
that
my super pump for this movie.
Really?
Yeah. Well, it's honestly my favorite thing about Green Lantern as a character anyway. But the fact that his creativity is like what makes him one of the best Green Lanterns is because he thinks so like
outside
quick
the
on
box.
his feet and outside the box. And the best example, this moment of the movie encapsulates my super pump, is in the fight scene with Hector later on down the road, when someone, I believe it's Hector's father, is thrown. And to keep him from hitting the ground hard, he creates just water.
Oh, no, that's Amanda Waller.
That's Amanda
Oh, is it
Waller?
Waller?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a cool
Yeah.
scene.
She's falling. And
Yeah,
he
that
just,
was
He just
sweet.
creates water underneath her, and she splashes, and just once she reaches the
Yeah.
bottom, the water's just gone.
Yeah.
That was very
And
cool.
in that moment, I sat up on the couch. I was like, that was dope.
Yeah.
I loved that. And to me, that's one of the things I love about Green Lantern and kind of this movie is like he's using a chain gun and he's using, airplanes as like a pod racer at the end, essentially.
Yeah.
And he his creativity and the creativity of like the different powers, even though technically it is another giant fist punch that saves the day. Like the powers I think are so cool in this movie.
I felt like they could have done way better at being creative.
Yeah.
Like he does the swords, and I was like, okay, that's a cool way to maybe
How
start off.
human.
Yeah.
But then they just do swords for like that entire fight scene. And you're like,
Right.
did
Yeah.
they not think of anything else to do?
And I think that they could have been creative. And I mean, if you want to go that route, then one of my dumps is actually that I don't think there was enough time with him as Green Lantern in the movie.
No
Yeah,
way.
And so because of that, I don't think there was enough time to show off more powers. But the powers that we got, I really liked.
Yeah, I thought that fight scene with Sinestro was pretty cool.
Which one?
Whenever
Yeah, the training Sinestro?
Sinestro was like
Training
scene. Yeah,
essentially
after
just
Kilowog.
mirroring his constructs and being like, hey, it's not your constructs, it's your fault that you're not good
Yeah.
at this.
Yeah. Well, and before he meets Sinestro, he meets Kilowog, who is supposed to be his trainer, combat
love
I
trainer.
loved Kilowog.
That's a pump
Kilowog
for me.
was so good.
I loved Kilowog so much
Tell me why.
because he looked awesome, and it was
Yeah.
Michael Clark Duncan.
Yeah.
He's great. He's
Yeah.
a great voice. I was a little bit confused because he trains him for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, he took a
And
long
then-
lunch break on Oa and then was like, I can't be a lantern.
And then at the end, he was like, "Can I train him or can I train him?" And we're like, "You didn't train him.
You didn't train him at all.
Punched him because you're a jerk."
Isn't that your job? Are you not the trainer of the Granterns?
And when I was first watching, I was like, oh, maybe it's just a very short montage of a very long time. No, he went back to Earth like that day.
Yeah. Yeah, that, and again, that's just to me, I was just like, Hal, you buffoon. Like, you had this magic power for like 3 hours, and we're just like, I can't do it, it's too hard. I'm gonna go back to Earth where everything's always about me.
Well, and if they had dug into his character a little more, that honestly could have been really cool that he gave up after not being good at something for 2 seconds because he's
Yeah.
not used to that.
Yeah.
But instead,
Like-
it was just like, I'm done. And then Blithely was like, don't be. And he was like, you're right.
I feel like the emotional arc for him should have been similar to Doctor Strange's emotional arc, where he was like, I am the very best at everything. Everything's always about me. Now I'm awful at everything.
Yeah.
Now I'm awful. The thing that I held on to,
Yeah.
I no longer have, which
Yeah.
I recognize is not really Hal in the comic. Like Hal in the comics is a little bit of like, I'm good at everything.
Yeah, no, he's kind of a cocky jerk.
Yeah.
When I think
It's just hard to
again,
sympathize with that
a
character.
pump for this movie, and it happens in all DC movies. I think Ryan Reynolds was a great cast.
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, if you know Hal Jordan in the comics, Ryan Reynolds is a great Hal Jordan.
Yeah, he is.
And he's got that kind of humor, that kind of wit, that kind of...
He's a jerk, but so likable and like heart of gold kind of situation.
Because there's two funny people in the Justice League, and it's Flash and Green Lantern. And they're the ones that are witty and funny. And,
But Aquaman's funny too now.
Apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
We'll get there. Jeez.
But so we're talking about Green Lantern in Oa.
Yeah.
He quits. I felt like the emotional heartbeat for this movie should be, and I don't know a whole lot about Hal Jordan, but from what I've seen in Hal Jordan in the comics and in animated films and stuff like that, is he is desperately, or he is just so afraid to fail.
Yeah.
And that is why he quits.
Yeah.
And that is why he does not want to be a lantern, is because he
doesn't want to be bad at something.
And they nod to the responsibility part.
Yeah.
I think they're trying not to be too much like Spider-Man, and so they're trying not to talk about it too much. But in reality, that is what he can't handle. Is
Yeah.
I can't take this responsibility because what if I fail?
Yeah.
And I felt like we didn't really get that. We felt
No, we didn't.
I agree.
The big emotional heartbeat was wait, I don't know what it was. What was it?
Don't be afraid. Essentially.
I'm afraid. But
I'm
was
afraid,
he,
but
what was
not
he
really
afraid,
afraid
of?
of anything.
What was he afraid
Yeah.
of? Like the
Exactly.
big thing was like,
Well, we never really saw him react out of fear to anything.
other than
Yeah.
in the spiraling airplane where he had
Well,
the
and he, like,
the
if he's so
snapshot to his
afraid,
dad.
there wasn't even a moment where, like, if the big thing is like he's afraid, why was he not ever tempted by yellow power?
Yeah.
Why was he
Well,
not ever like, I'm so afraid I could just give into it and act out of fear and weaponize fear and I could be a yellow lantern?
I do think that a lot of that is because they were setting this up to have at least one, if not multiple sequels. And by the after credits with Sinestro and the Yellow Ring, I think that
Yeah.
was pretty obvious where they were planning on going with it. And honestly, it's probably a good thing that they never got to make a sequel. But
I would say, yeah.
Well, and for me, I feel like a lot of these movies we've been talking about that we don't like, it's like, ooh, there was so much hope in certain parts
Yeah.
if they just change some things. I feel like they needed to change everything. Like
Yeah.
we just need to start with a different bad guy, a different plot, a different chemistry, different writing. Like it was just all bad.
Well,
Like we need to do a different movie.
I will say the one thing that wasn't bad that I'm gonna give my super pump to is
Pump it.
Mark Strong's Sinestro.
Yeah.
He's
I
great.
absolutely loved Sinestro in this movie. It's to the point where like I was watching this and I was like, what if Hal Jordan was not in this movie and this was a Sinestro movie and Sinestro was just leading the Lantern Corps trying to kill Parallax.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
would
it's
have
'cause,
loved that.
First of all, Sinestro's a dope character, but
Yes.
also Mark Strong just rules.
Yes.
He just rules.
And for a movie that was pretty terrible in the CGI, he looked great as
He
Sinestro.
looked
He looked
awesome.
just
He did.
like Sinestro.
Dude.
Sinestro.
In the end credit scene when he puts on that yellow ring, that is the only time I was like, man, I wish this movie was just a little bit longer.
Or a little bit more about Sinestro.
Or a little bit more about Sinestro versus Hal.
And I feel like it kind of falls victim to the same thing that Superman Returns did in a sense of it could have been a much better movie, I think, without the core focus of this giant main villain. And if instead it focused on building up and then tearing apart the relationship of Green Lantern and Sinestro.
Yeah.
Because in the comics, Sinestro is a mentor figure
Yeah.
to Hal
Yeah.
until he's no longer that.
Yeah.
And then they hate each other.
Yeah.
And it's this very emotionally charged kind of rivalry between these two people.
That's true.
And if that had been the core of the movie, add in the storyline of Sinestro chasing that fear, that yellow power.
Yeah.
And then it could even end with the decision of, when they break apart, is Sinestro saying, join me. I have another yellow ring for you. Like we it's not evil. Like fear isn't evil.
Yeah.
Listen to me. And Hal being like, no, I
That
can't
should
give
be
in to
this
fear.
movie.
Yeah.
And I really think you keep the same cast.
Yeah.
You keep the same. Also, by the way, soundtrack, which I really enjoyed.
Oh my gosh, I hated this soundtrack.
Cool.
I thought it was terrible.
I liked the soundtrack. I thought it was fun, but I think that would have been a pretty decent movie.
Yeah.
I felt like if we spent this entire movie talking about Hal and discovering the ring
Yeah.
and all of its powers and him as a character
Yeah.
and having exactly what you're saying, Sinestro be the mentor that maybe we kind of see a little bit of evil in, like, ooh, I
and
don't know about that.
If Hal's
Yeah.
afraid the whole movie, and then Sinestro sees that fear and is like, Hal, I did this because I want to help you own your fear.
Yeah.
And then Hal can say, I don't want to own my fear, I want to conquer my fear.
Yeah.
And then, then you have that
That'd be so
head-to-head
good.
action.
And even if like
Yeah, that's good.
dare I say it, even if it wasn't an origin story, like we just open the movie and it's space cop adventure buddies, Hal Jordan and Sinestro
Yeah.
Purple Man, adventuring all across the galaxy doing cool Green Lantern stuff.
and I
And
get
then
that
they
this was the
they
time
crash
of,
into Parallax.
That would be
they,
dope.
They awaken Parallax on accident.
and even it could be by their fighting or
Yeah.
something. But I think this movie came out at the time when like origin stories were the in thing. Like that's what
Yeah.
you did.
Well,
Your
Batman
first movie
Begins
in
had
the
just
series.
come out a
Yeah.
couple years ago. And
No, it
The
is.
Dark
This is
Knight
after
had just
the Dark
come out.
Knight.
well,
This
you
is
know,
2011.
but I'm saying that because I was reading and who's the director in this movie?
I don't even
can't
remember
remember.
his name. I did not recognize his name.
He tried to get this movie launched in 2000.
Oh yeah, I did hear that.
And the response from Warner Brothers was, "Can you make it without the ring?" And he was like, "No."
What?
That's Warner Brothers. Welcome.
Well, Kevin Smith was originally asked to head
Really?
this project.
Really?
Yeah.
And
Said
so
no.
he got so discouraged, backed off the project, and then Batman Begins came out, and he said, "Okay, I'm ready to pitch it again," knowing that superhero movies can be good.
This really did feel like a very early 2000. Like it tonally felt like
Fantastic
X-Men 1 or 2
Yeah,
for me.
For me, honestly, it felt like a high school project, fan-made movie made on the iMovie app. And they had really good connection with Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively. Like that's how when the Warner Brothers sign came up and it was like green little flares everywhere, I was like, that looks like an iMovie effect.
Yeah.
That looks
Yeah.
like a cover art on iMovie.
Yeah. It totally did.
But so let's talk. One of the scenes that I think is the first time Hal uses his powers to save people.
Yeah.
Where he makes the race car.
Where he makes the race car. I
Which
liked.
I loved.
Okay, I liked the idea of that, and I liked that they nodded to that when he was in his nephew's room.
Yeah.
And he flung the little Hot Wheels car on the loop, and it was like, ooh, that's coming back. I liked that. But let's talk about that scene because that's the first scene that Hector realizes he has some sort of power, Right before that
Yeah.
is when he looks in the mirror and has those yellow eyes. Maybe we should back up and talk about Hector for a second, because he was exposed to the alien, the same alien that Hal was exposed to, but yet he
reached inside the wound.
Is that what he did?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, and he
Okay,
got
maybe I
some
missed that.
parallax goo on him.
Yeah.
So then
He
Parallax
also
was
looks like a moldy walnut.
was Parallax like controlling him, or was he like a slave of Parallax?
I think he was using him as like a messenger, essentially.
I was
Trojan
confused by
Hector?
that because Parallax was like, kill the lantern. And you're like,
yeah.
why does he need him?
No, let's be very clear. It makes no sense at all.
No.
I'm not saying like, oh, this is what's happening, and I'm just saying like,
Yeah, yeah.
I think this
Yeah,
what they
here's
were
what
trying
they-
to go for is like he's like a harbinger, like he's like beware, Parallax is coming. Except that never happens, and also there's no need for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no need for him.
It's just like, I mean, and to be fair, Parallax didn't intentionally possess him. He was just infected. But at the same time, what's the point?
Yeah, I don't know. And then we get the really late in the movie reveal that it's like, oh, he's loved Blake Lively this whole
Forever.
time.
Yeah.
And
Wait.
like, yeah, that's in this movie.
No.
Yeah.
oh yeah.
That is.
Remember, he was like, I can never be you, Hal.
I can never be you,
so
Hal.
I'm gonna make her like me.
She'll always choose you over me. And
Dude, I genuinely did not realize that's what he was saying.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's so dumb. And then we get to that point and it's just like, of course. It's like,
Welcome
hey,
to the
main
movie.
main character, you're so hot and cool. She'll always love you more than she loves me. And we're supposed to be like, no way, main character should get her because he's hot and cool.
I realized.
That is a genuine problem that most people would have. Be like, you're so hot and I want her to like me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so dumb.
I did realize that he was jealous of Hal.
Yeah.
I did not realize that it was because he had loved.
It's because of Carol.
It's because they didn't show that.
Yeah.
Other than that creepy scene where he was like,
So I got to cut up this dead alien, which I
Yeah,
can't
exactly.
tell you about, but it was very cool. And he was purple, and I stuck my hand in the wound on him, and I got some green gooey stuff on my finger.
And then his dad thinks, what is he doing? He's going to give us away. And he literally goes as though he was
Yeah.
a vampire exposed to sunlight.
I hated him so much. God,
Which
like,
is funny because he's actually a killer actor.
not in this.
And well, prior
It's
to his
so
head getting
bad.
big, I thought he was actually pretty good at playing like a convincing like dweeb.
yeah, I thought so too.
Especially his like
gosh.
everything he says was just kind of over enunciated, almost like he was John Malkovich.
Well, and my thing was, again, I felt like every character was so one-dimensional.
Yes.
It was like, oh, how's he responsible? Because remember that scene where he was being irresponsible?
Remember that scene where he
And-
wrapped his nephew's birthday present with newspaper? What an irresponsible, hot, cool guy.
And then with Hector, it was like even high school kids pick on this high school teacher. What?
Well, it's like,
Yeah.
explain Hector. He's a very intellectual scientist who is feeling overlooked and belittled by his dad. Because remember the scene where he was overlooked and belittled by his dad?
Yeah.
And also he teaches
That's him.
high school biology.
Yes.
So there's that.
Maybe it was college. Was it high school?
No, it was definitely high school.
definitely
He
high
was-
school.
Kid was wearing a leather jacket. And also, he says, and I hate this, class dismissed.
Yeah.
And
Super dumb.
I've been to like school before, and I've never actually heard someone say class
That
dismissed.
I've
in
never
my
put that
entire
together
life.
until right now. That is such a staple of movies. Teacher always like, class dismissed next week, study your notes, we have a test. Never has
I've never
ever
heard
happened.
class dismissed in my life.
You know what would happen? Hey. The bell does not dismiss
I
you.
dismiss you. The bell doesn't
Giant,
dismiss you.
giant shriveled walnut head dismisses you.
But so they're at this party. We see him be belittled by his dad again, because that's who he is as a character. We see the tension, will they, won't they, between two people that have no chemistry on screen, but super chemistry off screen. And then the dad gets into the helicopter, and Hector says, I'm bringing that helicopter down with my telekinesis, which I found out that I have. But instead of just breaking the plane, I'm going to shoot up a beer.
A tap.
It's a tap.
Yeah.
To hopefully just nail
Which,
the
by the
tail.
way, he did.
Yes, he did. Which why
Killer
would
shot.
that work? But anyway,
Yeah.
that's how he hits the tail of the plane. It goes into a crazy spin, and
Which, by the way, he was clearly okay with not only murdering his father, but the people piloting the helicopter and every person at this party.
okay, well, and Hal comes to save the day, and even later references like, oh, and I just saved like hundreds of people. The plane like flew through the crowd,
Yeah.
didn't kill anybody. The only person he really saved was Blake Lively.
Yep.
And he stops the car or the helicopter.
Yeah.
Not with, a wall or a net, but he puts it onto a race car track, which was really only a fun scene. It was not a logical scene.
It wasn't logical at all, but let me tell you something.
You loved it.
Ate up every second.
Dude, I can't, I'm like
Every
it's
single second.
seriously blowing my mind.
Yeah.
Hey,
it was
I don't
so
get it either.
Weird.
I can't profess to understand what's happening.
Gosh.
So then
So we get that scene, and then
he reveals himself to Blake Lively, and then head gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
we get another scene of Sinestro leading the Lantern Corps, and Sinestro's like,
Which
I saw Parallax eat the skeletons of 16 of our bravest warriors.
and I didn't get.
Tell me what happened. And then that's when he sees the broken chair, and he's like, it used to be one of you.
Is that what the pillar was?
Yeah.
And then all of the ancients are like, should
we tell him? No. Yeah, okay. Here's an entire backstory.
Yep.
That
What?
we maybe have prepared for you.
And I don't understand. It felt like they couldn't choose the lane as far as is Parallax an incredible thing that we can't stop, or is he like incredibly easy to stop because one man did it before and one man could probably do it again, but we have entire army of lanterns.
Well, it felt like they also couldn't decide between is he monster or evil person? Is he unstoppable like
he's made-
environmental force, or is he like flying
If he's
space
made
demon?
of fear, if he's made of fear incarnate, why do missiles hurt him and explosions hurt him?
Yeah, I don't know. Remember
know how
Blake Lively
missiles-
sets off the plane
Yeah.
Oh
missiles?
yeah, that's right.
It just like
Yeah, a lot of things hurt him.
doesn't make sense.
No,
So
yeah,
let's.
you're right. Well, and they blow up that truck with that like giant like railgun thing that he creates.
Is
Yeah.
there anything more to talk about before we get to the final confrontation? I feel like this movie kind of just spins its wheels
Yeah. Well,
until we get to that final fight.
Well, another confusing thing for me was when Sinestro was like, "Let me send some of my best lanterns and capture him," and he takes like 8 lanterns.
Yeah. Didn't they have like 3,600, 36,000,
there's a
3,600?
lot to choose from,
Yeah.
and he just went with like a small
And then
SEAL
they
Team
all
6.
died except him.
Yes, he was just watching them die. Like,
And also, I loved when Hal was like, "Elders, can I please fight Parallax?" And they're like, "No." And he's like, "But can I?" And they're like,
well, no,
"Yeah."
Because this movie did that thing that maybe is the worst thing that science fiction movies do, where they go, you may not understand humans, but it's our humanity that makes us good. And it's like, that is the dumbest, weakest plot point of just like, humans are introduced to a race of aliens that don't know about humans.
Don't share our values.
Don't share our values. Presumably there are countless other races very similar to humans in this vast, vast universe.
Yeah.
And the human goes, the thing that's going to make me the best out of all of you is that I'm a human. Like it's like,
but it doesn't tell you why.
if we lived in a world like fast forward 18 million years from now,
Done.
when humans and aliens live on this planet together, if we show them Green Lantern, they're going to go, I can't watch that. That is racist propaganda.
Yeah.
Where you say humans are better than aliens only because they're human.
Yeah.
I hate that is so dumb.
That type of like storyline beat to me works if it's not the human saying it. Like
Yeah.
if somebody else, like if Tamar Ray were to say, you know what makes Hal so good? Humans just have this innate quality where they care enough to do something stupid.
See, I even hate that. I even hate that it's just like humans have this thing no one else in the galaxy has. It's called love. And it's like, it's just so dumb to me.
See, I don't hate that if it's not a concept the other aliens are unfamiliar with, and as long as it's not the person bringing it up, like if Hal was, which he kind of was, but if Hal was just like you don't understand the way that I feel is different than you because I'm a person. Let me do it.
Yeah.
Then like
My
I don't
name's
love
Hal
that.
and I'm a person.
Yeah, I don't love that.
Yeah.
But if it's somebody else saying like this is what makes Hal so good at what he does, and it's because he looks at and sees things different than the rest of us do.
Yeah.
And it's because of his humanity that he's able to look at it with that perspective. I'm into that.
Yeah. Well, and so they let him go fight and try and save the world, even though they're like, you're gonna die, and he's like, well, at least I'll die trying. He goes down, and I don't know how long this fight scene is, but
It's not long.
It felt like the first fight scene of a movie, the one where you're like, oh, I'm coming back later.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like because it was
when
so
Doc Ock robs a
anticlimactic.
bank, and it's
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
robs a bank. Oh no! Okay, it was a short fight scene. Now we know what the hero's really up against.
Yeah, it was just over, and I was like, that was the end.
Yeah.
That was the climax. It was chase me, go through a little what is that called?
Asteroid
Yeah,
belt.
asteroid field.
Which asteroid belts are not even remotely close to that dense. There's like hundreds of miles between.
There's also
asteroids.
not one between us and the sun.
No, it would be like like him. If we applied the same logic to asteroid belts, or if we use that logic in other forms of travel in movies, it would be like piloting a boat like driving a boat and like having to swerve to not hit islands. Like it's the most ridiculous thing in the world.
That's a pretty cool point. So then he chases him and gets him towards the sun, which he remembers Kilowog telling him earlier that
The bigger they are, the more gravity they have.
and the faster they sink.
The bigger they are, the more they burn.
Have some respect for the dead, guys.
I know. For
And,
real. Okay, genuine moment. R.I.P. so hard.
Yeah.
He was so good.
And then I'm forgetting his name.
Parallax.
Big fart in the sky.
Galactus.
Yes.
What is up with these giant space world-eating entities in movies just being a gaseous evil cloud? Actually, Parallax, the way that he looks and just the way that he is, and honestly kind of the fact that he's in this movie, my super dorm.
I thought you were about to give that a super pump.
No, my super pump
we were
was the
so
powers.
scared for you.
Okay.
No.
That's right.
Parallax.
I was like, oh my gosh.
Parallax as a character is dope.
Yeah.
Parallax in this movie
No,
is my
thank you.
super dump.
No,
I
thank
think
you.
that he distracted so much from what I wanted this movie to be. And honestly, he looked, as David has said, like a giant gassy fart in the sky.
Yep.
And his teeth and eyes made me very uncomfortable. It hit that uncanny valley point where I was just like, ugh, every
He
time I
looked
looked
like
at
a
him.
video game monster.
Yes.
It was gross to me.
And to finish up this scene in this movie, he gets dragged into the sun, he dies, and then Hal's about to go with him, and then the other lanterns come and stop him. The only ones that we know, because why
Yeah.
would anyone else come in this
Yeah.
movie? We don't know them. So Kilowog, Sinestro, and the fish-looking guy that we love,
What's his name?
Tamar Ray.
Tamar Ray.
Tamar Ray, bring him in, and they're like, hey, good job. They're like,
You did it.
You did
we were
it.
watching.
You did it.
We weren't
didn't
gonna
help.
help. We weren't gonna
But
help.
you did
We
good.
made some green binoculars. We've been watching you from OA.
I do. Before we move on too far from this, I do just want to say, not a super pump, obviously, but just a quick pump to how cool I thought it was that he basically pod racered 2 fighter jets to help pull him away from the sun.
Yeah.
I thought that
Yeah,
was so
that was cool.
That was a creative
But
scene.
also, I was dying laughing because all I could picture was Ryan Reynolds going, "It's working! It's working!" And I almost sent you guys a picture of the screen and said, "Now that's what I call pod racing."
So after that scene, though, the movie pretty much kind of ends. It tries to tie a bow on the relationship with him and Blake Lively. They
It really ends very quickly.
share,
actually.
they share a kiss.
Tells him to take the mask off.
He says, "Yeah, take the mask off." Sinestro says, "Like, you were just like purple guy.
Yeah,
It was
it was
you were
brash
just
and
like Abensor."
reckless.
Which
it seems the ring found another just like him.
we never knew that about Abensor. In fact,
No.
we kind of were told the opposite. Like,
Yeah.
you could not even stand in his shadow.
Yeah.
And he's
Yeah.
like, you're just like him.
Yeah, it really
Change my
is.
mind.
Again,
Like that.
it really is. The movie goes out of its way to be like, guys, look at how freaking cool Hal Jordan is. Every human and alien in the galaxy loves him.
And then at the very end credit scene, I believe, or mid-credit scene,
Mid-credit scene.
Yeah.
we see Sinestro, who takes the green ring, which was forged to fight Parallax,
The
but
yellow
then
ring.
not used, the yellow ring of fear. He puts it on and goes, oh, this feels good. Which I know I'm dumping on the scene. It was a cool scene, but in what way did we ever have a nod that he was going to go evil or that he wanted to use fear?
Well, he's the
Also-
one. He's the one. He did tell the council we have to
wanted to
forge
do
a
that.
yellow ring.
I get that, but then he just saw that one ring with the power of will defeated Parallax, who was the essence of fear. Why would he
Yeah,
be
yeah.
like, but maybe it will work
Maybe
if
I
I
can do it.
I'm not saying that they did a good job of doing this. What I am saying is I think they were hoping that the audience would be like, it's because he wants to harness fear. Again,
Yeah.
I don't think they did
There's
a good
no
job of
reason
spelling
for him
that
to
out.
want to do that.
And I'm also going to dump on this scene, even though I like it and I like Mark Strong. When he takes the green ring off to put the yellow ring on, his suit stays on.
Yep.
I hated that.
Yep.
I wanted him to take the ring off and the suit to fade, and then him to put it on, the yellow suit fade in.
But they never addressed that any other lantern had a reason to wear regular clothes. It was like they're always lanterns.
But what I'm saying is the power comes from the ring, and he wasn't wearing the ring, so why was the suit there?
It was like a Raiders of the Lost Ark like swap really quickly.
It's like, oh, you didn't even see it.
He had both of them on for a second, and then you wouldn't even see the change.
One on each hand.
Yeah. So, yeah, can we rate this movie?
I think it's time to rate this movie.
Let's do it.
All right.
Talk us through that scientific cinema scale.
So here's our scientific cinema scale that we've come up with here at Two Chunks and a Hunk, the podcast about movies and pumps and dumps. The best thing we can possibly say about a movie is own it, don't lend it, buy that poster. Right underneath that, the next best thing we can say, buy it, purchase it, you know? Underneath that, rent it. Rent that movie. It's a good rental. Right underneath that, stream it. Do not pay extra for it. But if you're already paying for a streaming service and it's on there, hit that up. Right underneath that, a little something we call forget it. You'd honestly be better off if you just forgot this movie ever existed. It's going to be way better for you. And after that, the worst thing that we can possibly say about a movie. God hath
Forsaken us. Jordan, what do you give it?
So, despite the praise that I have for some parts of it, and honestly, I enjoyed watching it, I'm going to give it a stream it. I think that if it's available and don't rent it, don't buy it, definitely don't buy a special edition and tattoo it all over your body. But if it's on a streaming service and you want a little Green Lantern action, you've never seen it, go ahead and stream it. It's already there for you. So that's my rating.
Cool.
David.
Forget it.
Okay.
I think you're better off forgetting that this. If someone told me like I love Green Lantern, I'd be like, yeah, there's a movie coming out in 2020, and that's it. Don't go back and watch this movie. Even if you like Green Lantern, I don't think you're gonna like this movie. Maybe I'm wrong for all you Lantern fans out there, but I think this is just a terrible movie. I think so much is done wrong. I don't even think there's glimmers of hope. I was expecting to have like at least some cool scenes of him being Green Lantern, but any cool scene he has is like 3.5 seconds long.
Yeah, he's not Green Lantern.
I can't even YouTube like, oh, that cool Green Lantern scene. What am I gonna Google?
Yep.
Can I just get a snapshot of the planes in the background where he harnessed himself? Like,
yeah,
because that's all that I liked. So yeah, forget this movie.
I am gonna join Team David. Forget this movie.
Thank you.
Unless your very favorite fictional character of all time is Sinestro, there's nothing for you to like in this movie if you're a Green Lantern fan, in my opinion.
Yep.
And I'm right.
Well said.
So forget it.
All right.
So do we have anything final to say to kind of wrap up our Green Lantern discussion?
I think we should close with the the theme song again. What's
the Grantern Oath.
The Grantern Oath.
The Grantern Oath.
Yeah.
In brightest day, by darkest night, when it's CGI, and the suit is green.
Bright.
Yep.
You know that Ryan and Blithely are there to come down the chimney.
Sleep in heavenly peace.
Green Lantern's heavenly peace.
Don't watch this movie.
Yeah, but for real, closing thought, it just not really a thought, just interesting to me that for this little mini kind of series that we've done where we watch Superman Returns and Green Lantern, my reception and response to these movies is 100% inverted from what I thought it would be. Like I really expected to going into this, I was like, man, I'm going to hate Superman Returns, but then it'll be cool to watch Green Lantern. And like, I love Superman Returns and Green Lantern. I found myself at some points during this movie being like, man, I would kill for some like Man of Steel right now.
Man, I love Suicide Squad right now.
Yeah.
No, you wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't. I was being dosed because he gave it a stream it, which is ridiculous.
That is my favorite movie.
Of all time. It's tattooed on your whole body.
Yeah.
For me to kind of wrap up Green Lantern discussion, all I want to say is it ended up not being as bad as I thought it was. I enjoyed it.
For you.
It's not good. It's definitely not good, but I liked it.
For me, I felt like I learned a lot about Jordan Wonders and how he watches movies and that he's ridiculous in his ability to rate movies.
He only liked it because his name is Jordan and the main character's name in this is Hal Jordan, and everybody spent the whole movie going, Hal Jordan, you're so great and cool and hot.
And I was pretending they were saying Pal Jordan, like my pal Jordan. So every time I was like Pal Jordan, I was like, what's up? No, but we do have a couple of closing things. Yeah. So
shout out.
We want to thank a couple of people for giving us shout outs on social media by hashtagging official chunky. So those people are Colton Kingston,
Boom.
Brennan Taylor,
Do.
Stephen Baker,
Bam.
Adam Stout,
Zoom.
Eric Rodriguez, and what's this last one say?
David Blazar.
Oh, no. That's our very own David Blease.
So stoked to be on the podcast this week.
You finally made it on our show.
Ah, man, I'm so excited. Green Lantern was dope.
But if you hashtagged Official Chunky and if you shared our podcast in any way, thank you so much. If you've been watching or listening and keeping up all this time, seriously, thank you.
Yeah, that means the world to us. So, as you may or may not know, this, which is totally Tuesday, the day this releases, and not a time before that when we're recording. This Friday, Justice League comes out.
League. Boom, 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 boom. We've made this joke every single episode.
We can't keep coming back to that. Justice League comes out. We're gonna be watching.
We are on
We're
release
gonna
night.
be reviewing.
We are.
We're gonna be podcasting.
We are.
We're gonna be talking.
That's true.
We're gonna be chunking. You gonna be downloading. You gonna be watching or listening.
Watch or listen.
We gonna be having a good time because you're having a good time, having a good time. So that, yeah, and then we got some fun stuff planned for Christmas.
Oh,
Yeah, we do.
You ain't ready for Christmas.
No, you're not ready.
No, you're not.
I don't think I'm ready.
I'm ready for Christmas.
We've got some really exciting things for Christmas, some Christmas-themed mini episodes. So make sure you stay tuned in right here to Two Chunks and a Hunk to celebrate the Christmas season with us. For Two Chunks and a Hunk, I'm Jordan Wonders.
I'm Doge.
I'm David.
Stop listening.
It's over. Turn it off.
Go home. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far in the video, first of all, that's awesome. And second, what are you doing with your life?
If you want to be the first to know when we drop new episodes, like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
And if you want a shout out on our next episode, then post on social media #OfficialChunky.
That's CHUNKY. And with this knowledge, you too can fly.
Hey, that rhymes. That's pretty good. Yeah.